In today's episode, they just don't know when to quit. Chasing number lead team leader to lose one of her best employee. Customer was finally right about something. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. They just don't know when to quit. This is a relatively tame story, but I wanted to share at least one of mine here. I have quite a few stories of awful interactions with customers, but most of them didn't last very long. But this one. So, the center I work at has various programs you can learn to work with different clients. The program I'm scheduled on most is for natural gas companies in Ohio/Pennsylvania/Michigan. I qualified to be able to work from home in October, and have been doing so since. But in order to do that, I had to move to another floor where I could take a practice call on the PC I would take home with me so they could make sure I knew how to connect to the VPN, set up the headset, etc. etc. So I'm a little nervous, not being sure if the systems or I are going to work properly, thinking about how much harder it's going to be to reach out to supervisors for answers from home. You know how it goes. The biggest comfort I had at that moment was a friendly coworker who I'd been talking with a week or so. She was going to start to work from home as well, and was taking the test beside me. We can call her Ally. Anyways, first call, can't hear anything. Headset issues, easy fix. No worries. The next few calls after that go just fine. And then, there was Kevin, not his real name of course. So right off the bat, this guy has maybe the worst mic quality I have ever heard. Dude sounds like he's got his phone plugged into an amp. I have a poor memory, and since this happened so long ago to me, I don't remember exactly all the details, but if I recall correctly, he was already somewhat upset sounding when I was trying to get his information, but when we actually got to the meat of the call, boy did he blow up. I think what happened was that he switched gas suppliers without remembering his contract with us had an early termination charge. It's a pretty common problem, and the frustration is understandable since those fees aren't pretty. They're prorated for each month that's left in your contract, so if you start a 12-month plan and cancel it a few months in, you're likely to pay $100 plus. And it makes sense as to why he was already upset. He would have received the separate bill in the mail and probably called in upon seeing that number. He loudly asked me the same questions over and over and over, and didn't understand the information I was giving him about the charge. Since the contract was not dropped by his utility company, he was not moving or disconnecting the gas line, and he didn't want to do a re-enrollment, the fee was unable to be waived. That really set him off. He told me he wanted to speak to a supervisor, so off I go to my original floor. The whole time Ally is listening to me and shaking her head. When I get up, she asks me, "You're really ready to handle that at home all day?" I just laughed and shrugged. I mean, really, the soup will probably speak to him for a few minutes and he'll calm down and be on his way, right? I get the attention of a coworker who works the same program, but also has a sort of unofficial mentor/soup status. I explain the situation, she agrees to come back with me, takes the customer off hold, and then *T really starts to go down. This dude really lays it on her thick. He went on for several minutes at a time, not letting her get in a single word, and when she finally did manage to sneak in the first half of a sentence, he would abruptly interrupt, probably with another angry quip or screamed question. At one point he must have cussed her out because she interrupted him and told him she would not be talked to that way, and that he was free to hang up if he wanted to use that language. He was a tiny bit calmer after that, but still proceeded to ask questions that I'd already answered the same way. This call went on for, get this, 58 minutes. Usually in this program calls last about 10 to 15 minutes, and from my understanding any calls that go over that time are especially scrutinized for mistakes. Cheers to the lucky agent who got to listen to that one. I don't remember how it ended, but eventually she read out the conclusion and got off that cursed call. The whole time Ally and I have been snickering and the soup has been throwing her hands up in the air in exasperation. After the call she laughs with us and Ally, and I thank her for her assistance. After she returns to her station, Ally suggests we both give her positive feedback in the program we use for her handling of the call, which we did. It was very much deserved. I felt bad for putting her through that. It really wasn't that crazy except for the time it took to get this dude to understand he was gonna have to pay that charge. How can you justify wasting nearly an hour of your life yelling at people you will never meet for something that is pretty much your fault, since you didn't go over the contract's details again before making the decision to change it? I will never get that. Chasing number lead team leader to lose one of her best employee. So it is a story from my first tech support job, 2017. The employee is me but no self-d-. I was good at my job. English is not my first language, but I am proficient as it was my primary language providing support. Second language required was German, my third language. So I got hired to this team mainly because my English was, and is, still better than my German. It was normal tech support, not so many calls, but more emails and tickets and mostly in English. As some people went by, like students who were there to work while studying in university, I was asked to enroll in the other part of our project, which is just tickets and outbound mails. We were not the primary contact, just the resolver and follow-up team, but was mainly in German. I was against it because my German knowledge was poor in my opinion. Eventually I rolled with this project and barely did the original I was enrolled for. I preferred handling tickets and not having to talking to customers directly than taking calls. Also my German got better. Time went by and I remained the most experienced agent, not completely true as there was one another, but she was not good as I was even though she was working there way longer than me on this topic due to the senior colleague went to a supervisor position and people coming and leaving. I also had the honor to train the new colleagues which I did and did good. Still I started to notice that the majority of the work would fall on me. I told my team lead about it and she told me it's going to change, but it did not. Even my colleagues spoke in favor of me that I am working way more than my colleagues. Note I did not ask them to do so, they did it entirely on their own. They are still the best colleagues I ever worked with, but still she gave most of the work for me. I found out that she needed to provide some green SLAs for bonus, so she made me work as I worked hard and fast. Eventually I asked for a one-to-one session with her. I told her that I am working way more than my colleagues and it is not fair. I offered her to train them and answer all of their questions they had regarding the job. I also mentioned that I am quitting and I gave my 2-month notice, as required by my contract. Surprised Pikachu boss. She told me it is not exactly fair from me. I told her that my colleagues and I have told her about my situation, but nothing changed so I am quitting. I was there for 5 years. But to be fair that is why I offered to train my colleagues and answer all their questions. The notice period was quite pleasant. I trained the colleagues and had to do way less work than previously. I was not bothered much and did what I wanted because what will she do, fire me? Smiley face. She made attempts to make me stay, but I had another job lined up with better salary so I refused. From what I heard they managed to do the support just not as good while I was working there. The project was eventually moved to another country next year. Customer was finally right about something. Call center for a credit union. So, every Christmas season, for some horribly unwise reason, my CU gives out a gift certificate for a box of candy redeemable at a reasonably well-known candy retailer. Our ACCT holders think they're entitled to this box of candy. They live and die by this box of candy. For some it's literally the only reason they have the account. Such was the case with today's lady. She calls in wondering why she didn't get her GC for her precious box of candy. I look at the account. She doesn't qualify. See, it's not just every single person gets the candy. You have to meet certain requirements such as length of time with the CU, amount in your ACCT, no collections, no past due loans, etc., etc. She opened the ACCT in January, stuck $100 in there and forgot about it. All because someone at her work told her if she opened an ACCT she'd get that box of candy. I explained it to her, and she lost her mind. You're a liar. You're a goddamned liar. Your whole bank is a bunch of liars and you're going to hell for treating people like this. Normally I'd hang up on someone doing this, but given the reason she's calling a $20 box of candy and her reaction, I just let it play itself out. Her breakdown was rather amusing, all things considered. Yes, ma'am, box of candy, it's very important, I understand. IT is important. It's my candy and you stole it, you animals. Arg, arg, grr, arg, blar blar, yell some more and scream. Then she says she wants to close the ACCT if she can't get her box of candy. I smile knowing what happens next. You'll have to visit a branch to close the ACCT, ma'am. Another round of blathering, wailing and screaming and swearing, and she says everyone in my office is staring at me now, do you know that? You've embarrassed me now, and a little bit more screaming, which she punctuates with the most accurate statement she could make. This is so stupid. This is all so stupid. All this. Over a box of candy? It's so stupid. I got a big grin and said, ma'am, I couldn't agree more. And then I hung up.